Yeah, hi guys. So in our earlier example, right, or in our earlier session, we have already discussed what we can say what is an APIGEE, how we are managing the API, what are the policies, what are the advantages of an APIGEE. These things we have discussed. Now, in the extension of that earlier session, we are also making that one more video where we will discuss some much more features and also comparing this APIGEE with the API gateway. So till now, if you haven't subscribed this channel, you can subscribe it, right? And you can provide your comments and the feedback, right? So that we can address your challenges, right? And we will help it to you to extend your technical learning, right, into a different topics here. So thank you very much. Now, so we have discussed that earlier for traffic management and control policies, right? We have discussed that integrated portal. Then we also going to discuss that one more topic here for package legacy applications using the RESTful interfaces, right? So earlier we have discussed 3-4 points here. In 3-4 points, we have discussed that how you can do the, you can say, the spikes and overall vulnerabilities, right? And through proxies, we can use the different protocols like that. Here, another point is package legacy applications using the RESTful interface. So in that scenario, you can also connect API through an API to your monolithic applications as well. So in that, some of the, you can say you have developed the microservices, right? And you break down your monolithic applications into microservices, or you have developed your complete application into microservice architecture, correct? But still, if you have a monolithic application as well, correct? So in that scenario, you can also connect your legacy application, your monolithic applications also, or maybe if you have some other services on some other cloud, that is also you can do it, correct? So modularize your application components using API gate proxy as a gateway for your legacy systems and the microservices. So some of that microservices you are using, and let's say one or more two applications are legacy applications, like in monolithic applications. So you can create, so we already know that we use the proxies for entire services, and through proxy we can just communicate it, correct? So, and it is a nothing but your abstraction layer, right, that insulate client facing application from the legacy backend services, right, and microservices. So APIGEE can help it to you to scale right, modern cloud application while securing traffic to a legacy services. So any particular legacy applications also you can easily monitor it. You can also, what we can say, check the vulnerabilities. There are many more things you can do it if you are talking about legacy applications. So legacy applications, let's say you haven't used that any latest APIs or development methodologies or maybe protocols and other things, still this APIGEE can help it to you. Okay, and if you have added a new functionality, let's say older banking applications and payment processing, you are just using a legacy application, but new functionality, UPI payment, maybe let's say currency, new currency flow payment, or maybe there are many such other services you are developing new. In that scenario, you can develop as a, maybe you have developed as a microservices. So in all these, including your older application, right, and maybe let's say your legacy application is deployed in your own infrastructure, in your own premises here, but some new services you have put it into your cloud here. In that scenario also, you can handle all these our requirement through an APIGEE, and you can connect it. So you can see these are microservices, and this is the monolithic application. So monolithic applications which are working into a legacy applications from different you can say platforms, or maybe they have deployed into different premises, and these are the client-side applications, and these client-side applications is just connecting through all the microservices and monolithic application using the API management. So this way also you can use a API management and the API gateway. Now publish and monetize your API products into a developer portal. So we have already discussed we can combine and then use, right, as a make a logical group of API products, right? So consolidate API built anywhere into a single place to enable easy access for developers with API Hub. So in that scenario, if you are exposing that API for extending a building app on top of it, in that scenario, you can also make it. It's nothing but you have just make a logical groups of all your APIs. So package multiple APIs or methods into API products to drive consumption here. So there is a no, we have already discussed this point. In that scenario, there is a no particular administrative overhead when you are managing a multiple APIs as a particularly a product here. Publish these API products into developer portals to onboard partners and the customer developers. Okay, so define comprehensive rate plan to monetize your API product consumption with any business model, right? So let's say in the same scenario, if you wanted to use something like that pay per use, or maybe particularly any other ways, something which we can say like any these AWS or public clouds are specifying, right, pay per use, or maybe based on that certain different costing plan or rate plan you are specifying, right? The way AWS is doing or GCP is doing or Azure is doing, you can also do it for your own APIs, right, to monetize or maybe for making a charges. Let's say if you have given your APIs and you wanted to calculate the charges, number of requests you are receiving, right? Or maybe there are some you can say based on some processing or any kind of charges you are doing it, correct? So these charges you can calculate it using the APIGEE here easily. So this is a one more this image, and you can see, right? So developer partners, right, 1, 2, and 3, these are connected experience. Some of the people are using through watch, mobile, or maybe computer like that. This is the developer portals, right? So here API products, product bundle, transactional policies, business model, rate plans, metering, rating, billing, and enforcement, right? So like that, these are API coming under the API monetizations here, right? So rate plans and everything is correlated here. It is nothing is different, correct? So you are just data, service data, maybe whatever you are just trying to consume. If you wanted to fetch some data, let's say you wanted to fetch some data from that into a particular manner from exchange NSC, right? So how you will charge in to a people, so you can give that data into a proper manner. So let's say if you are giving all the predictive data or this data into a complete tabular format, right? Because your NSC is not giving, so you can create that one API service proxy, and you can use that API monetization. So how many requests, based on the per request you can charge it, or maybe there are other ways you can create that rate plan and then you can give it, and based on that you can send the charges to a particularly a developers, right, or any other clients as well. So this is the way you can understand, because rather than to how you will monitor in this implementation, you will write it, right? So anyway, you need to have some proper app and setting so that you can understand that how much you have used it. Let's say AWS is also using for based on the consumptions, or maybe based on that data flow, right? This much KB per seconds or all this stuff. So maybe this also you can customize it, right? That limit and everything. the data which you are passing it, the performance and many other things also you can customize it. So you can think like if you are making some services like public cloud, so how you will help or how you will create it. So uniform, hybrid, or multi-cloud, this point already we have discussed, right? Operate in any environment with the consistency. So if you have a multi-cloud setup, some of the services you put it into a GCP, some of them on AWS, and then some of applications you are working in your own, how you will integrate and using all these applications and the services. So using that APIGEE, right, to expose the services, right, which is distributed across all different environments and different platforms, right? Maybe you can also consider scenario some of that services which is connected to your private data centers, right, where you wanted to or don't wanted to give an access public clouds like that. So APIGEE hybrid implementation can help it to you, right? So containerized runtime services in your own K8 clusters. K8 is nothing but your Kubernetes to blend your legacy and existing application with easy. So good point is that you can also deploy your all your services using the Kubernetes, right? Containerized applications, right? And you can use you can connect these applications using the APIGEE. So you can this way you can basically follow all these governance requirement compliances also, and you can also protect your applications from any other access attacks and all these places like that. So all of the points we have discussed, but good point is if you have deployed your applications using that you can say Docker container with the help of Kubernetes. So in that scenario, also you can connect and you can use it, right? And if you have connected with the different cloud environments, right? So there can be a chances, right, where you can have APIGEE. So it is a management plane here, nothing but your K8 service, right? Here you can runtime plane, right? So here you can just use that cloud IAM policies, logging, monitoring, identity. So generally, let's say in GCP, you have that IAM policies, identity management, projects and logging metrics, everything you have that, correct? So this is a developer admin here. So this is nothing but the user which have access here who is managing all this stuff. This is your backend app and services which is targeting to connecting nothing but these are the targets for your API runtime, correct? And your client tab is connecting to API runtime, right? And then it in connecting to your backend servers like that. So this is the way you can understand it. So if you are a business admin, or sorry, if you are a admin of your account, you have the full access, then you can create that API services and you can do multiple things like that. Also, if you are creating your own IAM role so that you can give an access and control the authorization for a particular users who can edit that APIGEE policies, who can create, who can delete, or something like that. So this is you can control it through what we can call as through IAM policies, right? Logging and metric, these are the services which has already we provided and we got it from the GCP. So web application and the API security. This point is also related. Earlier we have discussed the security, right? Security in the multiple layer with advanced control. This is much more deep. So we have much more deep implementation of a security, right? And it is a cyber to prevent from cyber attacks. Cyber security is a very important concern, and it is a very important factor when we are designing applications or you are deploying and you are processing, right? Security on is a top priority. So Google Cloud launched a web app and the API protections. Based on the same technology Google uses to protect its public facing services against the vulnerabilities, right? DDoS attacks, fraudulent bot activities, and API target threats. So many such people are targeting that your API in applications, bot attacks, vulnerabilities, and many other problems, right? Maybe you heard about that scanning. Also people do it into a static and dynamic scanning for your safety, right? So that is also people do it at that API level also and internal as well. So it combines three solutions: APIGEE, Cloud Armor, and uh, Recap Enterprise to provide a comprehensive protection against the threats. Correct. So this Google Cloud launched already, right? Web app and API protections, which will help it to you at much more granular level to implement our security for our APIs. So you can just see, correct? So that is we have already discussed in this architecture. You can also see, right? So good and bad traffic from the internet, bot attacks and everything. So here we can have that APIGEE management here, Cloud Armor, right into this. And you have all other applications, which is basically hosted on your other clouds or Google Cloud or your own premises, like that. So it is a web application API protections through which we can help it to you and we can secure it. So till now we have discussed about the APIGEE much more in detail, right? Now this is what is the comparison between API. You heard about that API gateway in microservice architecture. People used to develop that API gateway, and there are a multiple ways you can implement it. You can ready-made service, AWS API gateway. The same services we have into a different other cloud also. So what is the advantages of using the APIGEE? Many companies are looking for APIGEE implementations, and what is the comparison now? IBM API gateway, right? You also have that Mule API gateway, I guess. AWS API gateway, many other gateways are there. The fundamental component of a API management system is the API gateway. Correct. So making as a single entry point to protect. So you cannot expose all other your services over that internet or to a particularly a client. So we have to implement the security, authentications, and many such other things we can control at one place. So it serves as a systems one entry point, allowing different APIs or services to work cohesively and give a smooth user experience. So the API gateway's primary function is to ensure the reliable processing of each API call here. So we are connecting. So any client application will connect to API gateway. From API gateway to it will go to any other service. Let's say if you have customer service, account service, product service, and different services like that. So request will come to API gateway, from API gateway to go to some other places like that. So if you're talking about implementing on the microservices with the Springs, you maybe heard about Zool API gateway, correct? Now Resonance, I guess it's another API resilience, right, Pooja? There are many more other API gateway, AWS API gateway, you already have it. Like this, so different ways you can implement it, right? So it's one of the pattern here, right? So API gateway enables to creation of API specifications, provisioning of security practice, and the policy management of APIs. So at some certain level, it is much more closer to a APIGEE. Okay. So why use the API gateway? It is a safeguard your API from misuse or overuse of utilizing and authorized services and rate limitations. So this rate limitations and authorizations, I already told you, you can also control it and you can develop this functionality from your own code as well, rather than using any other gateways as well, right? So because of API gateway stand above your front-end apps. So let's say if you have 3-tier applications like Angular app, React app is connecting to your Spring Boot app or Node app or any other .NET app here, this app are connecting to your databases, right? So it acts as a security barrier, as a single entry point, right? For preventing all the access for your sensitive API accesses like that. So it will help you. Basically, it is coming under the routing pattern. So API gateway handles the routing and structuring answer that, and even caching. So that is also API gateway helps. Correct. So you can understand and you can compare it. This is the sum of the features already which is provided by the APIGEE. So API gateway also provided some extent. Correct. So creating API proxies, right, conveniently, and write or configuration API rules graphically as a step into API flow, right? Consistently apply government rules and best practices in terms security throughout all APIs, right? So you can have much more better control for your securing it. 3-stage authorized process enable you to create a reusable access restrictions and the gateway content, right? So it will have a 3 stages authorization process to enable you to create a reusable access restrictions. Real-time actionable insights to analyze traffic spikes, deep dive into API traffic informations. You will have a complete dashboard for that. And leverage innovative revenue models to create a new possibilities, grow API initiatives, and beyond stabilize business models here. So APIGEE has a much more rich facilities on top of the API gateway. Correct. So if you are talking about preventing that all these bot attacks and all these things, right? So as we have seen, right, WAAP API protections, web app API protections, through which we can have a much more better control. You will have consolidated API products to expose to monetize it. One another thing here, another advantage. You will have a complete dashboard for finding out the spikes, right? And that checking that performance, how you can improve, and all these things also you can use it, right? And definitely API gateway has a much more rich advantage when we are talking about the creating a proxies. So that is another advantage. So APIGEE has a much more rich advantage. That's why most of the companies are adopting nowadays from APIGEE. So APIGEE is itself is a separate product here, right? So but GCP, Google Cloud provide the implementation and they created it for the APIGEE. So that's the way you can use this, start using through a GCP. So that is all about that APIGEE, right? You can learn more about it, right? Into a next sessions, how we can configure and other details. So we will make it. So till the time, definitely, I think it is really going to help it to you at certain level. So you can subscribe the channel, provide much more comments here. We also have our own microservices development course also. If you are really like to enhance your knowledge related to microservices with cloud development, so you can check the link into a description and you can go through and then you can enroll it. Thank you.